So what IDE should you use? Well, in this course, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. And I'd highly recommend using Visual Studio Code because it's easy to use and it's perfect for Python. But if you have any IDE that you used to use, then use it and don't use Visual Studio Code. The most important thing is that you use an IDE or text editor that you feel comfortable coding with. But if your decision is to use Visual Studio Code, then you need to head on over to code.visualstudio.com and then you will be able to download Visual Studio Code. If you are using Mac, you need here to select to click here on download Mac, the stable version, and then you can install it on your Mac exactly as if you are installing any program on your Mac. If you are a Windows user, just select Windows and download the Windows version. And by the way, it's gonna here say download for Mac it's gonna say here download for Windows if you are using Windows. So this is my recommendation. And again, if you have another IDE that you wish to use, go ahead and use it. In order to download and install Python, you need to head on over to python.org and then hover over downloads and then click on your operating system. If you are using Windows, you need to download the one here for Windows, or if you are using Mac, you need to download the one for Mac. But for Mac users, before you download Python, you need to check if Python is already installed on your Mac or not. To do that, you can head on over to your terminal, open your terminal, and then in the terminal, just type Python 3 and then --version, and then hit enter, and it's going to tell you if Python is installed or not. If Python is installed, it's going to print out the version. So as you can see here, the version is 3.7.1, and I'm going to be using Python 3. If you type Python, only Python without 3 and then --, version, it's going to print out the version of Python 2, which version of Python 2 that is installed on my Mac. But I'm gonna be using Python 3, therefore you need to type Python 3 --, version and check if it's installed. If it's installed, then you don't need to do anything else. But if Python is not installed on your Mac, you need to head on over to python.org and then click on here on Mac OS X to check out all of the versions that are available. And you can download the latest version, which is 3.8.5 or 3.7 or even 3.6. It doesn't matter as long as it's 3.6 and above. And as you have seen, I'm using 3.7. The process of installing and downloading Python is the same for all of these versions. So you can select whichever you want. I already have downloaded 3.7.1 and installed it. So I'm going to click on it just to show you that how you can install it on Mac. So all you need to do is that you need to select the file. You have here the installer. As you can see, the installer. You can download the installer. I'm going to click on it, and it's going to take some time to download this package. And once it's installed, all you need to do is that you need to open it, and then you need to just click on a few nexts and accept the license. Just click on continue, and then README. Just make sure that you agree on the license here. Click on continue and then agree, and then just click on install, and it's gonna start installing. Click here on install, and once it's done, all you need to do is that you need to click on close, and you are good to go. And to make sure that Python has been installed, first of all, you can click on here go and then applications, and then you will find Python among your applications. As you can see here, it says Python 3.7, and you can check the if Python is installed or not by also heading on over to the terminal, and you need to close the terminal and then open a new terminal. You need to open a new terminal to check if it's installed or not. And then in a new terminal, you need to type again Python 3 and then -- version. And then hit enter. And as you can see, it's going to tell you that it's going to print out Python 3.7.1. And also make sure that pip is installed. Type pip and then -- version and hit enter. And it should here print out the version and where it's installed. Also pip 3 and then -- version and then hit enter. And as you can see here, pip 20.2 and it's installed. So this is how you can install Python 3 on your Mac. So in order to download Python for Windows, you need to head on over to python.org, and then if you scroll, you'll find under download the latest version, and click on it. And then if you scroll, you'll find many files. You need to download the file that is suitable for your operating system. If you are using Windows 32, then you need to install Windows 86 executable installer, and if your Windows is 64, you need to install Windows 64 executable installer, and it's gonna take some time. And once it's done, I'm gonna open it, and then I'm gonna click on run, and then I'm gonna here check the add Python 3.7 to path. This is very, very important. You need to check this. You need to check add Python to path. And then click on customize installation, click on it. And then make sure that you check all of these. We need pip, we need the documentation, we need the ID. And then make sure that the environment variables is checked. And then I'm gonna change the location where I'm gonna be installing Python to just Python inside my C. So I'm going to head on over to my PC, and then I'm going to open the C, and then I'm going to create a new folder in the C called Python. New, and then folder, and then I'm going to name it Python with capital P. And then once it's created inside the C, we need to just make sure that it's inside the C Python, and then \Python 3.7, and then click on install. And it's gonna start installing after you click on yes. It's gonna take some time. Be patient. And then once it's done, just click on close. It's gonna say setup was successful. And then if you click on Windows sign on the lower left side, and then click on all apps, you will find that a new app, which is just Python, you'll find that Python has been installed here. It says Python 3.7 module, and also the IDLE, and also the Python manuals. And also if you click on command prompt, this is very important. You need to open your command prompt and then type Python. This is very, very important. Type Python. And then if you hit enter, it's going to print out this message. If this message is printed out, it means that Python has been successfully installed. Otherwise, then it means there is a problem. But Python is very easy to install. You will probably get this message, which means that Python has been successfully installed on your Windows. So first of all, what is Kivy? Kivy is a framework that allows you to build applications that can run on pretty much all operating systems and platforms. Applications that can run on Android, iOS, Mac, Windows, pretty much all operating systems and phones. And the official website of Kivy is kivy.org, where this is the official website, and it contains the information about the installation as well as the documentation, where it contains all of the classes and functions that are available in the framework. Secondly, we have KiviMD. KiviMD is a library that is used to make your Kivy application look better because it contains material design components and widgets that make your applications look much better. And it also saves you a lot of time because you don't have to work on the design. It already has many classes and themes and designs that you can use, and it also contains some classes that make the process of creating a mobile application or an application in general much easier than if you were just to rely on Kivy alone. So now what we need to do is that we need to install Kivy. And to install Kivy, we need to open up the terminal. And if you are using Mac, you need to open up the terminal that comes with Mac here, terminal. If you are using Windows, you need to open up your CMD. But instead of opening up CMD and terminal, you can use the terminal that comes with Visual Studio Code. So if you open up Visual Studio Code and then click on View and then Terminal, you will be able to use this terminal. So you have two options. The first option is using this terminal that comes with Visual Studio Code, the built-in terminal. Or if you are using Mac, you need to use this terminal. Or if you are using Windows, you need to open up your CMD. But I recommend using this terminal. So now in the terminal that comes with Visual Studio Code, all you need to do is that you need to type pip3 and then install Kivy and then hit enter. And if you are using Python 3, you need to say pip3. If you are using another version, Python 2, you need to say pip without 3. And if pip3 doesn't work for you, if it doesn't work, you need to say just pip. So I'd recommend trying both. If you have any problems, just try both. But since I'm using Python 3, I'm going to say pip3 install Kivy. And then hit enter. And this is going to start installing Kivy, the latest version of Kivy. And as you can see here, it has been installed successfully. Here it says requirement already satisfied because I have already installed Kivy. And if you haven't installed Kivy before, it's going to start installing Kivy and you will be able to start using Kivy. Welcome back. So now it's time to install KiwiMD. And in order to install KiwiMD, you need to open up your terminal if you are using a Mac. And if you are using Windows, you need to open up the CMD, or what's called the command prompt. So now I'm gonna open the terminal, and instead of opening the terminal that comes with the operating system, I'm gonna be opening the terminal that comes with Visual Studio Code, the built-in terminal. So in Visual Studio Code, if you click on View and then Terminal, this is gonna open up a terminal, and you can use this terminal exactly as if you wanted to use the terminal that comes with your operating system. And this is, of course, going to work for any operating system. Now in this terminal, what I'm going to type is that I'm going to type pip3 and then install KiwiMD. And it's very important to type Python 3 if you are using it's very important to type pip3 if you are using Python 3. If you are using Python 2, you need to say pip without 3. And if pip without 3 doesn't work for you, you need to say pip3. So if you are confused, just try both, and one of them will work for you. So here I'm going to type pip3 install KiwiMD, and then I'm going to hit enter. And as you can see, KiwiMD started installed here, and here it says successfully installed KiwiMD. So KiwiMD library has been installed successfully. So the first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to create our project folder. To create the project folder, it's important to create it in a location where it's easy for you to access. Therefore, I'm going to create it in my desktop. So I'm going to head over to my desktop. And then in my desktop, I'm going to create a new folder, and then I'm going to name it my project. Of course, you can name it whatever you want. I have named it my project. Now, in order to open this project in Visual Studio Code, all you need to do is that you need to drag this folder and drop it on Visual Studio Code, and it will be opened. Now, as you can see, the project has been opened. Let's now create the first file. So to create the first file, you need to click here on this icon, and then you need to give it a name. So the file is going to be named main app.py, and then hit enter, and as you can see now, we have this main app. Now, the first thing that we need to do in this main app is that we need to import Kivy. We need to import the app from Kivy. So I'm going to say from Kivy.app import app. So this is the first most important thing, which is importing the app here. You need to import the app here, app. So now we have this app imported, which is gonna allow us to start building our project. So now what we need to do is that we need to create our first class. And that class is gonna be responsible for running our application. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna create a new class here. I'm gonna say here class, and then main app. And notice here that the name of the class matches the name of the file. It's better to do this, main app, and here main app, and here we need to add here the colon. Don't forget the colon. So this class is going to be the main class, class that's going to be called whenever we run our application. So it's very important. And this class, in order for this class to work successfully, this class must extend a parent class. So the class that this class must extend is called MD-app. It's a class that belongs to Kivy Material Design, Kivy MD. So we need to import that class. So I'm going to say here from Kivy MD dot app import MD app. So this class is gonna be the parent class, and here we need to extend it. So here we need to say MD app. We need to pass it in order for our application to work successfully. And this is now our main class, and this class is going to be used to run our application. So now what we need to do is that we need to create our first Kivy file. And we need to understand the relationship between Python and Kivy. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is that I'm going to create a new file here. And then this file, I'm going to name this file main.kivy. And this file must be named main. Why? The answer is it must match the first part of the class name, the prefix of the class name. So here the first part or the prefix is main. So the Kivy file must be named main.kivy. And this Kivy file is used to kind of create the user interface, whereas Python is responsible for the logic. So you can think of Kivy as the file that stores the user interface. Now, in order to run our application, in order to let our application let Python talk to Kivy, we need here in the class translate that into code, and we need to do that in the class. So to do that in the class, first of all, you need to understand and know two functions. Basically, the main class must have two functions. The first function is called build, and the second function is called onStart. So the build function is used to build is going to be called upon running our application. When we run our application, this function is going to be run and it's going to build our application. The onStart function is going to be called whenever the application starts. So it's kind of the the application life cycle. You can think of them as two important functions that get called whenever the application gets started, or when the application starts. So we need to create these two functions. So the first function that I'm going to create is called the build. The build again is called to build the application. And of course, since we are in a class, it must take the self. And then inside that function, what we need to do is that we need to talk to Kiwi, because as I told you, Kiwi is responsible for the user interface. It's going to return the user interface. So here in the Kiwi file, what we need to do is that we need to create our main UI widget. So Kiwi is going to consist of many widgets, and we need to create our main widget. So to create a widget in Kiwi, we need to use the angular brackets, and then we need here to give a name to that widget. So I'm gonna name my first widget main widget, and then here colon. And then inside that we can add the user interface, and I'm gonna work on that later. For now, what we need to do is that we need to talk to Kiwi to return the user interface. So here in this build function, we need to say return, and then we need to get the main widget, because the main widget is going to contain the user interface. So here I'm going to say here in the main app, I'm going to say return, and then I'm going to return the main widget from Kiwi. So here I'm going to say return, and then I'm going to say main widget, main widget, main widget. But you might be wondering now, where is the main widget? We are here returning the main widget, but where is the main widget? Well, we need to create that main widget here as well, because every widget that you have here in Kiwi must have a class in the Python file, must have a corresponding class in Python. So here we created a widget called main widget, and in Python we need to create that class. We need to say here class, and then main widget, and then we can add here code, and or we can say pass, because pass means that we aren't going to do anything here. There is no logic. There's only a user interface. There's only something to be seen by the user, but there is no logic here for this widget. But this is how it works. So again, to recap, whenever you create a widget in Kiwi, you must create a class corresponding to it, a corresponding class. And to run your application, you must have this function. And this function build is gonna be available in any Kiwi application. You must have a build function, and it must return the main widget. Let me save everything now, and now we have the basic code that we need in order to run our Kiwi application. So now what we need to do is that we need to learn how to run our Kiwi application. Well, first of all, we need to call a function called run, and we need to call it on an instance of this class. So we need to make here an object. We need to say main app, and then we need to say run. This is going to run our application, and this is mandatory. You need to call the run in order to run your application. But unfortunately, this is not going to work because this widget returns nothing. Here we have nothing. So this widget must extend a Kiwi class, must extend a layout. So let's import a layout. So I'm going to import the box layout. There are many layouts, and the most common one is called the box layout. So I'm going to say here from kiwi.uix box layout import box layout, and we need to extend this. We need to extend this box layout here in the main widget. So here I'm going to say box layout. Now let me save and let's run our application for the first time. So how can we run our Kivy application? To run your Kivy application, it's just like if you were to run a normal Python file. So you need to open up your terminal. I'm going to open up my terminal. And then in the terminal, you need to type Python and then main app.py. And here, if you are using Python 3, you need to say Python 3. If you are not using Python 3, you can say just Python. And again, it depends upon where and how you installed Python. So you need to try both. If Python 3 doesn't work, you need to try just Python. And it's going to work if you installed Python. So here I'm going to say Python 3 and then main app.py. Let me hit enter. And as you can see, the application started successfully and we have here an empty application. So this is how to run your Kivy application. So now what we need to do is that we need to work on the user interface. So as you can see here, we have an empty application. So we need to start working on the user interface. Let me first of all close this application down because we don't need it for now. And I'm going to head on over to the main.kivy. As I told you, the Kivy file is responsible for creating the user interface. So now that we have this main widget, we need to add widgets to it. We need to add the UI, the user interface. So the first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to add here 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to add 4 spaces because Kivy follows the rules of Python. So you need to leave here, you need to always leave here 4 spaces whenever you create a child of a specific appearance. So here, the first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a screen because we have an empty screen and we need to create a screen. So I'm going to create a screen, and then inside that screen, we want to have a navigation layout. We need to have a navigation bar or navigation layout. So I'm gonna again here I'm gonna hit enter and then I'm gonna leave 4 spaces. I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then navigation layout. And by the way, these are classes given by Kivy. So don't worry about these. These are already available. If you installed Kivy, these are available. And then here we need to add semicolon. We need to add here colon. And then inside that navigation layout, we need to have screen manager. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then here we need to have screen manager. Screen manager. What is a screen manager? A screen manager basically is going to allow you to manage the screen. It's going to allow you to display different screens, different pages. So whenever the user goes from one page to another, this screen manager is responsible for the transition from one page to another. So this inside this screen manager, we need to have pages. So I'm going to create 2 pages. I'm going to here say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to say home page. Home page or home screen. Let's say home screen. Home screen. And then I'm going to give this screen some properties. So the first property is the 1, 2, 3, 4 is the name. The name is important. The name is basically the name. It's not something complicated. It's just the name, but it must have a meaningful something meaningful, some meaningful name. Let's say home screen. Home screen. This is just the name. And then the screen, this home screen, we need to display something in the home screen. Therefore, I'm going to be using the box layout. Box layout. We want it to have a box layout. And that box layout is going to have, here, let me leave 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to have orientation of vertical. Vertical. What is a vertical? A vertical is simply a vertical orientation. So whenever you display something, it's going to be displayed at the top. And then whenever you display something else, it's gonna go below the first object or first thing that you displayed. So now what we need to do is that we need to continue working on the design of the home screen. So on the home screen here, we need to use the MD toolbar to display the toolbar in the home screen. So I'm going to say here MD toolbar, and then the toolbar is going to have the following 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to have the following properties. First of all, a title. What do you want to display on this toolbar? So I'm going to display my app. For now, I'm going to just say my app. And then the elevation of that the elevation of this toolbar. Elevation. So the elevation is going to be a number. Elevation. It should be a number. So let's say 10. And then this property is very important. It's called the left action items. So left underscore action underscore items. This is going to allow you to add items where whenever you click on one item, it's going to change the screen, the display of the screen. So it's going to display another screen. It's going to display another page. And the code is the following. First of all, it takes an array. And that array has another array, a subarray. And then inside it, we need to say menu. And then the second element should be lambda. And then X. And then we need to call the toggle nav drawer. What is the toggle nav drawer? The toggle nav drawer is gonna, it's going to display a kind of a toggler navigation drawer, where when you click on it, it's gonna open up and it's gonna display it's gonna display tabs, and whenever you click on it, it's gonna close down. So here we need to say nav drawer, and then we need to call the toggle nav drawer. And of course, we need to create this nav drawer. We need to create this. And this is for the navigation. This is for the toolbar. In the toolbar, we need to have a nav drawer. Finally, here in this home page, what we want to do is that we need to create a scroll view. And inside that scroll view, I'm going to create MD list, but I'm going to create this later. So for now, the scroll view is going to be empty, just empty. Let me zoom out a little. Now what we need to do is that we need to work on the navigation drawer so that we will be able to display the navigation drawer, and we will let the user go from one page to another. So where should we display this navigation drawer? Well, to display this navigation drawer, we need to create a navigation drawer. So here outside this, here with this navigation with this screen manager in the same level, we need to create the navigation drawer. So I'm going to say here I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we need to create the navigation drawer. So I'm going to say here MD navigation drawer. And then we need to give it an ID. But what is the ID? The ID must match this one. Remember, here I called a function called toggle nav drawer, and I called that function on an ID called nav drawer. So we need here to say ID 1, 2, 3, 4 ID, and the ID must be nav underscore drawer. So the navigation drawer has an ID of nav drawer, and whenever we click on nav drawer, it's going to call the toggle nav drawer and close or open the navigation drawer. Now inside that navigation drawer, we need to work on the design. We need to display the tabs. So I'm going to say here, a content navigation drawer, the content, we need to work on the content. So I'm going to say content navigation drawer. And then inside this content navigation drawer, we need first of all to use the screen manager. So I'm going to say here 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to say screen manager, and the screen manager must this screen manager attribute must take the ID of the screen manager. So for this screen manager, we need to give it an ID. I'm going to give it here an ID 1, 2, 3, 4 ID, and then the ID of that screen manager, let's give it an ID of screen manager. Screen manager. So here I'm going to say screen manager. And here in this content navigation drawer, we need to say screen manager. So on the right side, this screen manager refers to this screen manager. And on the left side, this screen manager is the attribute that this content navigation drawer takes. This is the first property that we need. The second property is the navigation drawer. So what is the navigation drawer? The navigation drawer is the navigation drawer, which is nav drawer, which is this one, Finally, here we need to give this content, we need to give it an ID. So I'm going to give this an ID. I'm going to say here ID 1, 2, 3, 4. The ID of this is going to be, let's give it an ID of content drawer. Content drawer. This is for this navigation. This is for the content navigation drawer. So as you can see, what I have done again is that here in the home screen, I have a toolbar, and inside that toolbar, I call the toggle navigation drawer, which is this one, navigation drawer. And inside this navigation drawer, we have the content navigation drawer, which creates the navigation drawer. And we need to work on the content of that navigation drawer. So now what we need to do is that we need to work on the content navigation drawer. So at the top here, I'm going to create that widget. I'm going to say here, content navigation drawer. And notice that I added angular brackets, because whenever you create a widget at the beginning of the code, you need to add the angular brackets. You need to surround it with angular brackets. And for this content navigation drawer, first of all, we need to define the orientation 1, 2, 3, 4, and the orientation is going to be vertical. And we also need to specify the padding and spacing. So the padding and the spacing can be any number you want. I'm going to say padding, and then let me give it a padding of 8 dp. And for the spacing, I'm going to also give it a spacing of 8 dp. And then inside it, we need to create anchor layout. So here I'm going to say anchor layout. And for this anchor layout, I'm going to give it the following attributes. So the first attribute is going to be the anchor x, which is going to be left, because we want to display it on the left side. We want the navigation drawer to be displayed on the left side, as well as the content. And the size hint y, I'm going to say size hint y none. This must be defined. Otherwise you are going to get an error, probably. The height of this anchor layout is going to be the avatar.height. So the height of the avatar is going to match the height of the avatar. If the avatar is, say, 8 dp, the anchor layout is going to be 8 dp. Then we want to display an image inside that anchor layout. let's display something. Let me here say image to display an image. So here I'm gonna say image, and then let's give it an ID. I'm gonna say 1234 ID, and then I'm gonna say avatar, and then I'm gonna here say size, and then size hint, and for the size hint it's gonna be none. Again, this must be defined, otherwise you're gonna get an error. We also need to define the size itself. So the size can be anything, but this is actually very important, because if you give it a very big size, the image is gonna look terrible, because it's gonna take a very big space of the screen, and we don't want that. We just want it to take like 50 dp, something small, and for the width and for the height. So for the width and height, I'm gonna say 50 dp, 50 dp. Finally, we need to say source. What is the source? Source is the source of the image URL. So we need to create a folder that stores the image. So I'm gonna say data. I'm gonna create a folder called data, and then I'm gonna say, let's say logo.png. So I'm gonna create this. We need to get an image. So now what we need to do is that we need to continue working on the content navigation drawer. So earlier I created the image, but we need to display buttons. We need to display tabs. So I'm going to say here 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to use a scroll view. Scroll view. Using a scroll view is very important, because if you don't use a scroll view, if the content is too big, the user will not be able to see all of the content. But if the screen view exists, then the user will be able to scroll and see the content. Now in the scroll view, I'm going to create two buttons. So first of all, in order to create two buttons, we need to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we need to use MD list, because these tabs or buttons should be in a list. So we need to use MD list. And inside that list, we can create now the buttons. So here I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to create the first button. The first button is going to be one line list item. Again, this is a class given by Kiwi, and it has the following attributes. First, 1, 2, 3, 4, the text. What do you want to display on it? For the first button, I'm going to display home. And then there are many attributes. You can use the on press. You can close the navigation drawer by using that, or you can use the on press. The second button is going to be the one line list item, and it's going to be again 1, 2, 3, 4 text. Let's display something else. Let me say here about us. So this is for the scroll view here. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create the content navigation drawer class, and also the home screen class, because these classes are missing. So in the main app here, we need to create these two classes. Here, first I'm going to create the content class, and then content navigation drawer, and it's going to extend the box layout. This is going to extend the box layout, and it's gonna do nothing. It's just gonna pass. Here I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then pass. We don't need it to do anything, because it already has the code here. It already has the code that we want. Second, we need to create the other class, which is home screen. So here I'm going to create another class here called home screen. I'm going to say class, which is going to be home screen. And for this home screen class, it's just going to extend the screen layout. Screen is just going to extend the screen, because because the home here screen uses the screen. It uses the screen. Therefore, it must extend the screen. And again, it's just gonna say here pass. We don't want it to do anything. Finally, we need to import the screen here. Here, as you can see, we have an error, so we need to import the screen. So here at the top, I'm gonna say from, and then kiwi .uix screen manager import, and then we need to import the screen manager, and also we need to import the screen. So I'm going to say screen manager and comma and then screen. So make sure that you import both the screen manager and the screen. So now what we need to do is that we need to import all of the missing classes, the classes that we used in the Kiwi file, but we never imported in Python. So here, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say from, and then I'm going to import a few classes. The first class that we used was the MD list. So I'm going to say here from Kiwi MD, and then dot UIX dot list import, and then we need to import the MD list. MD list. The second thing that we want to import is the one, remember the one, this one, the one line item, the one line list item. So we need to import this one as well. So here I'm going to say from KiwiMD again, KiwiMD dot UIX dot list import, and then we need to import the one list one line list item. We used this before. We also need to import a few things for the application to work successfully, such as the builder. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to say from Kiwi Lang import builder. We need to import the builder. This is very important in order for our application to work successfully. We also need to import the theming. So I'm going to say from kiwi.md.theming import themable behavior. So now it's time to run our application and see what's going to be displayed. But before you do so, you need to double check your code. Here, as you can see, I have here a problem. I said main widget. Here the E should be after the G, so it should be widget, WID GET, because the class is main WIDGET. So make sure that you don't have these very simple mistakes. If you have these, it's not gonna work. Your application is not gonna work. Now let's run our application. So I'm gonna open up the terminal and run my application. So if you run your application, awesome application. Now I have this navigation drawer. If you click on it, it's going to display home and it's going to display about us, because we have, remember, in our application, we have home and we have about us. And now we have here home and about us. If I click back here, it's going to close down this navigation drawer. So now what we need to do is that we need to work on these pages. As you can see, we have the home and we have the about us. And we already have the home, but we want to work on the content here that we want to display in the home, and also in the about us. We need to create this about us page. So in my project, what I'm going to do is that here in the navigation layout, we need to create another page. So here I'm going to create another page called about screen. And then inside this about screen, first of all, we need to give it a name, 1, 2, 3, 4 name, and the name is going to be about screen. And inside this about screen, I'm going to also use the box layout. I'm going to say box layout, and then the orientation is going to be vertical. And then we need the same exact thing. We need to use this MD toolbar because we want to display the toolbar in the about. Here by default it's going to open up the home page. If you go to the about page, we also want to display this toolbar. Therefore, I'm going to copy this code. I'm going to copy this part, and then I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to paste it just inside the layout here, inside the box layout. And we also need to for this screen for this about screen, we also need to display scroll layout. So here I'm going to say scroll view, scroll layout, or scroll view. And then I'm going to work on the content of the scroll view later. So now we have the about and we have the homepage. Now we need to create the class of this about screen. So in the main app, we need here to say class, and then we need to create about screen. And then I'm just going to say pass because we don't want to do anything. We just need this class to be created. So now what we need to do is that we need to work on this area where previously we created an image, but we did not get that image. So we need to display the logo here, or the image here, along with some information. So I already have here an image, so I need to include this image. So I'm going to open up my project, and then I'm going to create here a new folder called data. And inside that data folder, I'm going to drag this image and I'm going to drop it in that folder. And now we have this image called logo.jpg. Now in the main.kv here, what we want to do is that we want to make sure that the image, as you can see the image here, the source points to the image. So the source is data/logo.jpg. JPG, because the image is logo JPEG. So here it should be JPEG. So again, make sure that it's data/logo.jpeg. The second thing that we need to do is that we need to display some information here below this image. So below this image, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to here, let me close this off, and then here I'm going to use the MD label just outside this anchor. Outside this anchor, I'm going to come outside of it, and then I'm going to use MD label. And make sure that you are inside the content navigation drawer. So here the MD label. So the MD label is going to display just a label or text. I'm going to say text. And then the text can be anything. You can display anything about your application. I'm going to say awesome app. Awesome app. And then the font, you can play around with the style. I'm going to say font style. So the font style is going to be button. It's going to be like a button. For the size, the size hint y is going to be none. And for the height, it's very important to specify the height. So for the height, I'm going to say height, and then the height is going to be the self dot texture size 1. So the height is going to be the texture size of 1 of the MD label. This is for the MD label. You can display as many MD labels as you want. So for example, if I copy this and if I paste it below here, I will have another text. Here you can display another text. So for example, here you can say, this is an awesome app. This is my app, or this is email. You can display your email, for example, or the email of the business. For example, at info at example.com. And you can change the font size. So the font size can be something else, such as the caption. And the size hint and the height are going to be the same. Let me now save and run my application. So let me run my application one more time and show you the difference. So as you can see here, I have an error. It says here invalid indentation. This is a common error. Don't worry about it. We have here a problem. It should be here 4. As I told you here, I should leave 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here 4, 4, 4. And here as well. So make sure that your code is correct. Now let me run one more time. And as you can see now, if I click on this navigation drawer, it's going to display this icon or logo and display awesome app and then information about my app, which I think is very important to display the logo and also the some information or the app name, something like this. So now what we need to do is that we need to work on the content that's going to be displayed in the home page. So first of all, in the home page, remember in the home page here, I already have here the scroll view, and inside that scroll view we need to add the content. And first of all, you need to understand what exactly am I gonna add. So what I'm gonna add is that I'm gonna add a list, and this list will contain cards or items, where each single item is gonna represent a piece of information with its text and also image or images. So here the scroll view, inside the scroll view, we need a list. We need to create here what's called the MD list, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then MD list. And then we need to give it an ID, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the ID is gonna be MD list or home list. Let's say home list. I'm gonna name it home list. So what is the importance of giving it an ID? The importance is that every single element here in the KV file has an ID, can have an ID. And whenever you specify an ID, whenever you give an ID to an element, you can make reference to it in Python, meaning that in Python you can access that element and get information about information from it, or add information or data to it, which is very, very important. So now in the main app, what we need to do is that we need to make reference to it. Remember, in the main app, we already have this build function, which returns the main widget. And this build function is very important because this build function, as I told you earlier, is going to return the main widget, which returns obviously the main widget, which returns the home page. And we can add the logic here. We can add all of the logic here. Or we can use the onStart method. Here we can use the def onStart. So the onStart method is a lifecycle method, as long as, of course, the build function. Both are lifecycle methods, and you can use either of them to create your logic or add your logic, so that whenever the application is up and running, the data will be displayed to the user. So you can use either the build or the onStart, but the onStart is better in terms of making requests. If you want to make requests, it's better to make it in the onStart. But you can, of course, make everything in the build function. There is no problem with this. let me use the onStart instead. So here in the onStart, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make reference to the, remember, I'm going to make reference to here, I'm going to make reference to this, to this, to this home list. However, the question is, how can we do that? How can we make reference to it? To make reference to it, we need to use the self. We need to say self dot root and then dot IDs, and this IDs is going to return all of the IDs that we have in the KV file. And then we need to access the ID. So the ID was home list. I'm going to say home list. Home list. And now we can store it in a variable. I'm going to store it in a variable called home list. So home list is going to be equal to self.root.ids.homelist. Now I have reference to it. I have made reference to it, and I can access it in the Python file. So the service that I'm going to be using is called Open Weather API. This service provides weather about any city in the world, and it's a great service. They have free and paid options. The free option is used for testing, and the paid option is used whenever you want to create a real application that you are going to publish and people are going to be using it. So for the sake of testing, you can use the free version. And if you want to publish your application, you need to check here the pricing and get a plan from this service. So the URL of this service is openweathermap.org. So you need to head on over to openweathermap.org. And first of all, we need to create an account. So I'm going to here click on sign up. Sign up here, click on sign up. And then here, since you don't have an account, you need to click on create an account. So I'm going to create an account. Very simple and straightforward. And by the way, you need to create a real account because they require you to verify your email. So if you don't use your real information, your real email, you aren't going to be able to use this service. So it's very important to use a real email that you can open. So since I already have an account, I'm not going to create an account. I'm just going to sign in. Otherwise, you need to create an account and you need to verify your email. So once you have verified your account, you need to click on your username here on the upper right side and then click on My Services or My API Key. I'd recommend clicking on my API Key because I need to explain something very important to you. Click on My API Key here. And here it's going to display your API key. What is this key? This key is the key that is going to allow you to connect to this service. Without having this, without using this API key, you wouldn't be able to connect to this service. So this is very important. And you can, by the way, you can generate here a new key if you wish to generate a new key. And by the way, there is a limit to how many times you can make a request. But don't worry about this. In terms of testing, this service provides a lot of the limit for this service is huge, so don't worry about this. I think it would allow you to make like 500 requests per day, if I'm not mistaken, and you will be able to make 500 requests per day. And for the free version. For the paid version, if you want to make more than 500 requests per day, you need to get a plan from this service. So now what we need to do is that we need to make a request and get data from the API servers. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to import the requests library. So here at the top, I'm going to say import requests. And then I'm going to use this requests here in the onStart. I'm going to say requests.get, and then I'm going to pass the URL. And I'm going to get the URL shortly from the API service. And then I'm going to store this in a variable called response. So the response is going to be equal to requests.get. Now let me get the URL from the service. So if you head on over to the service, which is the openweathermap.org, and log in, you need to log in first. And then you need to click on the API here, and then click on here current weather data, click on API doc, click on it, and then click on cities within a rectangle zone. And we need to get this URL. I'm gonna get this URL, I'm gonna copy it, and then in my application I'm gonna paste it here, but I need to add here HTTP. I need here to say HTTPS, and then colon, and then forward slash forward slash. And also here we need to pass the BB box and also the API key. Let's first get the API key. So where is the API key? The API key here exists in your account. Click on your account and then click on My API Keys. Click on it, and you will be presented with all of the API keys that you have. So for example, I have this API key. Let me copy it, and then you need to paste it here. You need to remove the curly braces with the API key, and then you need to paste the API key. Second, we need to get the BB box. So we need to go back, click on back, and then here we have the BB box. Let's, for example, get this one, this BB box. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna copy this one, and then in my application, I'm gonna here say BB or B box. So the B box is gonna be equal to this, to 12, 32, 15, 37, and 10. And then I'm gonna remove this B box. I'm gonna remove this B box, and then I'm gonna add here single quotes, and then I'm gonna append the numbers, these numbers. I'm gonna say plus, and then B box, and then plus. Now we have this B box appended to this response. Now what we need to do is that we need to convert this B box to a string, because this is not a string, and if you don't convert this to a string, it's not gonna work. So we need here to add single quotes at the beginning, and at the end we need to add single quotes. Single quote at here and single quote at here. So two single quotes, one at the beginning and one at the end. So here it's gonna be now a string. Now what we need to do is that we need to call the JSON in order to convert the response into JSON. So here what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say response.json. This is going to convert the response into JSON so that we can consume the response that we get from the service. And then I'm going to store this in a variable called JSON response. So JSON response is going to be equal to response.json. Now after we have converted the response into JSON, we need to access the list that's going to be returned. So before we access the list, we need to understand the structure of the list. So the structure of the list is going to be the following. If you head on over to the service, you'll find that this is the response. The response is going to be like this, and it has a list. This is just a general example, but if you check the URL that we got, you are going to get something like this. So the response is going to contain this data, and what we are interested in is this list. This list is an array of objects. As you can see, it's an array of objects. So we need to access this list. To access this list in our application, we need to say here, we need to come over here, and then we need to say JSON response, and then we need to access the list. And then I'm going to store this in a variable called list. So list is going to be equal to response list. I'm going to say here weather list. And then we need to loop over this list because this is an array. So I'm going to say here for item in weather list, and then we want to access each single key that we want. So here for each single object, we have the name, we have the coordination, coordinates, we have the humidity, we have the pressure, we have the temperature. What we are interested in is the name, the temperature, the maximum temperature and the humidity. So I'm going to access these. To access these here, I'm going to say name. So the name is going to be equal to item name. The humidity is going to be equal to item humidity. The temperature is going to be temp. And finally, we have the temp max item temp max. And you can access also the pressure if you want to access the pressure as well. And if you also want to access the minimum temperature, you can access the minimum temperature. I think the pressure is enough. I think now we have most of the information that we are interested in. So here I'm going to say pressure and then item pressure. And now we have all of these keys and we can start using them. So now what we need to do is that we need to create the item that's going to display this information. So what I'm going to do is that in the main.kv file, I'm going to create that element. So here at the top, I'm going to create an element here called at the top of this file of the kv file. I'm going to create a new element that's going to display all the information of the weather that we are going to get from the API service. So I'm going to here name it list item. I'm going to name it list item, or let's just name it item weather. Item weather. And then inside this, I'm going to create here, I'm going to create an image. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to create an image. I'm going to say image lift widget. Image lift widget. And then inside that image, I'm going to say source. And then it's going to be your root.source. So what is this? Here, by the way, we need to push this for 4 letters. I'm going to say here 1, 2, 3, 4. So what is this? What is this? This source refers to this source is the source of the image, and root.source refers to a variable that I'm going to create in the Python so that we can inject a URL of the image to be displayed in the item card. So in the main app now, what we want to do is that we want to create that class. So here we need to say class and then item weather. And then we need to extend a class given by Kivy, which is going to display that, which is going to create that awesome design, that awesome card or awesome item design. So that class is called 3-line avatar list item. You need to import this. So you need to say here from kvmd.uix.list import 3-line avatar list item. And then once you have imported this, you need to pass it here. 3-line avatar list item. And then finally here we need to make reference to the source. So I'm going to say here source. And then the source is going to be equal to string property and then the string property is just going to be string. Why do we need a string property? The reason is because the image URL is a string, so it must be string property. And finally, don't forget to import here from Kivy properties, import string property. That way I will be able to inject a URL to this source of the image so that the image will be displayed. Now what we need to do is that we need to use this item weather in the application. So to use it, what I'm going to do is that here in the for loop, I'm going to say item weather and then we need to use the properties given by the three line avatar list item to display the information that we have. So that class has the following attributes or properties. It has the text. You can display text. So for the text, I'm going to display the name. And for the secondary text, we have the secondary text. I'm going to say secondary text. So this for the secondary text is going to display the, let's say, the temperature. And for the also we have the humidity, we have the pressure. We can display them in another property, in a new property. So the third property that I'm gonna use is called the tertiary text. So here I'm gonna say tertiary text, and it's gonna be equal to, let's say, the humidity. I'm gonna display the humidity, and then and then I'm gonna store this in a variable called item. So the item is gonna be equal to the item weather. Finally, we need to push this item to the list. Remember, we have this list. We have this home list, which is this home list, which is this list, which is this list. Let me show you that here. Which is this list. Here, this list comes to it. So to do that, I'm gonna say here, in the for loop, at the end of the for loop, I'm gonna say home list, and then dot add widget, and then we need to pass the item. For each single in each single iteration, we need to pass the item, and now we are done. So now it's time to test our application. But before I test, I want to show you a few errors that you are probably going to face. The first problem is the indentation. Here, if you don't leave here 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and here if you don't leave 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, you are gonna get an error. Let me show you that error so that you avoid this error. If I save everything, let me save everything first, and let me run my application and show you this error. If I run my application now, you are gonna get this error, and it should be displayed here. So as you can see here, first of all, we have here another error. We have string property. I'm gonna first fix this error, and then I'm gonna come back to this error. So this error is string property. Here it says name error, name string propert is not defined. The reason is because here it must be string property. Let me show you that. Here it must be string property with a y. I forgot the y, and this is a common error. This is just a typo type of error. So you need to double check your code. Let me save now and let me run my application one more time and show you the other error that you are probably going to face. Many developers encounter this error whenever they try to run their applications. They encounter this problem. As you can see, this is the problem. Here it says invalid data after declaration. Here, because I did not pass this, I did not leave 4 letters here in the new line. So here I need to leave 4. I need here to leave 4 lines. If I leave, let me leave here 1, 2, 3, only 3. And if I run my application, I'm gonna get another error. Let me show you this error as well. So this error is also a common error. So this error as you can see, this is a very, very common error. Invalid indentation must be a multiple of 4 spaces. So we need to leave 4 letters or 4 spaces here. So here you need to say 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me now save and run, and I will show you another error, which is also a common error, but this error is not related to only Python. It's a general error in programming in general, especially for for front-end developers. So here it says key error. So what is this key error? This key error happens whenever the key isn't available or doesn't exist. So this humidity doesn't exist. If you head on over back to the service, if you enter this URL, let me show you this URL. If you copy this URL and paste it in the browser, you are going to get the data. Here it says the error says, let me show you the error one more time. The error message says key error humidity. So the key doesn't exist, but here it says humidity. So why is that? The reason is because this humidity is inside another key, and that key is main. So first we need to access the main, and then we need to access the humidity. So the humidity is inside the main. Therefore, we need to say here, we need to say, first we need to say here main, and then humidity. Similarly, for the temperature, we need to say main, and then temperature. For the maximum pressure, we need to say main and then maximum pressure, or temp maximum, temp max. For the pressure, also the pressure is inside the main. So first we need to access the main. So here we need to say main, and then pressure. That way the error will be gone. Finally, we need to convert all of these into strings before we test, because these are numbers. If you head on over back to the service, you'll find that the pressure is a number, the humidity is a number, the temperature is a number, the maximum temperature is a number, and the text and the secondary text and the tertiary text don't accept numbers. They accept only strings. So we need to convert these to a string. So I'm going to say here str, and then I'm going to pass them into str. str here, and then str, and here str, and now we are good to go. Let me now save everything and let me run my application. So now if I run my application, you'll find that all of the errors have been fixed. And as you can see, we have no errors whatsoever. Now the application looks amazing, and as you can see, we got the names here and the temperature, the pressure. It just looks amazing. So now what we need to do is that we need to display the icons here on the left side, the icons of the weather. So how can we do that? To do that, first of all, we need to create here if statement and check the weather condition, and then according to the weather, we need to use a specific icon. So here, first of all, let me head on over to the service. So the service here provides you with these icons. I already have these icons, and I'm going to provide these icons to you. And the second thing that you need to know is that we need to check the weather condition. So here, as you can see, the weather condition for each single here location, it says the description. So the description is the weather is the description of the weather. So for example, here, clear sky, or here we have description. Let me show you that. We have another description, broken clouds. So we need to compare these with this table, So we have here clear sky, snow, rain, broken clouds. So we need to get the description. First, we need to get the description. So where is the description? The description exists in a key called weather. So we need to access the weather, which is an array, and then we need to access the description. So first of all, in my application, what I'm going to do is that here I'm going to say description. So the description is going to be equal to the item and then inside that item we need to access first we need to access the weather, and then inside that weather, remember, inside that weather we need to access the description. But this is an array. This is not an object. Therefore, we need to say 0 first. We need to say here 0 because it's an array that contains only one element. And then we need to access the description. So here I'm going to say description. Now we have the description. But before we do anything with the description, we need to display it. So here, instead of displaying the humidity, I'm going to remove the humidity from here, and then I'm going to display the description instead. I'm going to say here description. Let me now save everything and let me run my application and show you how it's going to look like. So if I run my application here, it should display the description in the application instead of displaying the humidity. And here, next we need to use if statement to display the icon. But let me first show you the description that's being displayed now. As you can see here, for this location it says clear city, clear sky, and here it says overcast clouds, and here it says broken clouds. So now we have the description accessed. Next, we need to make if statement in order to check the description and then display the appropriate icon here instead of displaying nothing. So what I'm going to do is that in my application, I'm going to come over here, and then before displaying anything, I'm going to say here, I'm going to create here if statement. I'm going to say if, and then we need to check the description. If description, and then description. If the description is equal to, we need to check it with all of the conditions that we have. Remember, the conditions are clear sky, few clouds, scattered clouds, broken clouds. So we need to get all of these. We need to copy all of these, and then we need to check the description with these. So I'm going to say first, I'm going to check it with clear sky. And then else here, I'm going to say elif. So elif description. If the description is equal to the second case is few clouds. So we need to compare it with few clouds. And then we need to compare it with the third. In the third here, I'm going to say elif description. So if the description is equal to here scattered clouds, we need to compare it with scattered clouds. So if the description is scattered clouds, we need to do something, and then here else if the description, if the description is equal this time to we have the broken clouds and we have the shower rain. We have here broken clouds, and then we have shower rain. So here I'm going to say elif. So elif description is equal to rain, and then shower rain, and then thunderstorm. So first rain, shower rain, and then rain. Here elif description. So if the description is equal now to rain and then thunderstorm, this time rain, and next thunderstorm, and finally the last case is snow, and then mist. So let me first copy this, and we have snow here elif description, and then is equal to thunderstorm, and we have snow elif if the description is equal to snow, and finally here elif description is equal to mist, and else it's going to be the default else. So what we need to do now here is that we need to get a specific image and display a specific image according to the description of the weather. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create here a variable called image, and it's going to be empty. It's just going to be empty. And then whenever we check, after we check each single we know when we check the description, we need to determine the image. So here I'm going to say image, and then the image is going to be equal here to the image that describes the situation, the description best. So first I need to show you the folder. So I have here a folder called data, and it has all of the icons, all of the weather icons. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to open up the data that I have already here, and then I'm going to copy all of these images. And by the way, I'm going to provide these images to you, don't worry. And then I'm going to drag them, and then I'm going to drop them in the data here, in the data. Now in this data, I should have all of these images here in the data. As you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, and 10, and 11, 13, and 50. So now we need to use for, in case the sky is clear, we need to say data, and then the image, the appropriate image. What is the appropriate image? The appropriate image is all 1D. So it's this one. It's this image which is clear sky, which is this one. It's being displayed, as you can see, this one. So I'm going to say here 0, 1. I'm going to say 0, 1D.png. Similarly, we need to do the same for each single case here. For here, the image is going to be equal to data, and then we need to access the 0 to d.png. And then let me copy this so that I save some time. And then here I'm going to paste it. So I need to push it. And here it's going to be 3. And then here it's going to be, here it's going to be, I think, 4. Here's going to be 4. And let me here remove this white space. We don't need this. And here I need to paste this here. And in case of rain, in case of shower rain, the image is 9. In case of rain, the image is, I think, 10. So the image here is going to be 10. Image here is going to be 10. In case of thunderstorm, the image is going to be 11. 11D. 11D.png. Finally, we have the snow. So in case of the snow, the image is going to be 13. The image is going to be 13. Let me push this. And here I'm going to say 13. And finally, we have the mist. So in case of mist, I'm going to paste this image, and the image is going to be 50. The image is going to be 50. In case of else, in case of the default value is going to be the clear sky. It's going to be just 1. Now, how can we display this image? To display this image, we need to come over here, and then we need to say comma and then source. Why source? Why source? The reason why I use source, because the item weather, remember the item weather, which is this. The item weather, which is this. I have created a variable called source, and this variable refers to this. It refers to the image left widget source, which is this source. So therefore, I must say here source. I must say here source. And the source now is going to be equal to the image. Now source is going to be equal to the image. Now we are good to go. Let me now save and test. So I'm going to open up my terminal. And then in the terminal, I'm going to run my application and show you how awesome this is. As you can see now, it looks amazing. Here it says clear sky, and it displays the clear sky image here, overcast clouds. It displays here this image, broken clouds, broken clouds, few clouds, scattered clouds. So it displays the image according to the weather, according to the situation. And this is the situation given by the documentation. So it's recommended to use the images that are given by this documentation. So now what we need to do is that we need to display here some information so that the user doesn't get confused. So instead of saying just 19, we can say temperature. And we should actually say temperature. And we can display other things as well. So remember here I said name and then secondary text temperature. You can say temperature. You can say here temperature, or just temp. And you can even append the pressure and humidity. You can here say plus, and then humidity, and then the humidity is going to be plus humidity. Now let me save and run my application and show you that it's going to look better now. So if I run my application, here I have an error. I forgot to append. I forgot here to say plus. The plus should be outside. I should say here plus. Here plus. Let me now save and run one more time. So if I run now, it should work successfully. So now, as you can see, it says temperature, and then the temperature, and then humidity, temperature, humidity, temperature, humidity, and the location. Everything looks amazing now. Now the user will be informed, and the user will know exactly what we display here and understand what we display here, which is very, very important. So now what we need to do is that we need to work on this menu here. We have home and we have about us. But if you click on home, nothing is going to happen. And if you click on about us, nothing is going to happen either. So we need to work on these. We need to activate these buttons. To do that, first of all, we need to head on over to the KV file, and then in the KV file, we need to add event listeners to the buttons. Remember, we have this one line list item, and we have this one line list item. We need to add the on press event, and this on press event is going to execute a function when the user clicks on this home or this about us. A function will be executed and it will display the appropriate content. So here on press for the home page, what we want to do is that we want to do two things. First, we need to make reference to the root. We need to say root dot nav drawer. Remember the nav drawer, which is this nav drawer, and then we want to say nav drawer, and then we want to say dot set state, and then what we want to do is that we want to close the nav drawer, because if you click on here if you click on one of these buttons, nothing is going to happen. And the first thing that we want to happen is that we want to close this navigation drawer. We want to close this menu once the user clicks on this button. The second step is that we need to display the appropriate content. So to display the appropriate content, first we need to say root, and then we need to say screen manager. We need to make reference to the screen manager, which is this screen manager. And then we want to call the current. We need to say current, and then the current is going to be equal to a specific page, or the page that you want to display. Which page do you want to display upon clicking on the home? Upon clicking on the home page, we want to display the home screen. So we need to get the home. We need to make the current equal to the home screen. So the current screen is going to be equal to the home screen. So the current is going to be equal to the name of the page. So the name of the home page is home screen. Similarly, for the about us, we need to do the same. We need to say here on press, and on press we want to do on press. What we want to do is that we want to first we need to say root, and then dot nav drawer, and then dot set state, and then close. We want to close the navigation drawer. Second, we want to say root dot screen manager dot current, and then it's gonna be equal to the about page. So where is the about page? This is the about page. The about screen has a name of about screen. So we need to say we need to say root screen manager dot current is equal to about screen. And make sure that you leave here 1, 2, 3, 4, and here 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me now save and run my application and show you what's gonna happen. So if I run my application, as you can see here, if I click on home, the drawer will be closed, the navigation drawer will be closed, and the home page will be displayed. If I click on about, the navigation drawer will be closed and the about page will be displayed. Welcome back. Now if I click on about, it's gonna go to the about page and it's gonna display nothing. So we need to display some information here about the application. So how can we do that? Well, to do that, first of all, in the KV file, we want here to work on the about screen. So remember, in the about screen, I have created a scroll view which is empty now. Now we need to fill this or add some widgets to this scroll view. And the best widget that we can use is the MD label. So I'm going to say here 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to say MD label, which is going to allow us to display some text. And then we need to give it an ID. I'm going to say first ID, and then I'm going to say about label, and then I'm going to give it also text size. So the text size, let's say 6 centimeters and 4 centimeters. And also for the size itself, the size of the label size. So the size of the label is going to be self dot texture size. For the text location, I'm gonna use the H align center. Because I want to center the text. And for the text color, you can change the text color, and it takes the RBG color, so it can be, let's say, 255. I don't know what this color is, but let's try this color. I don't know what this color is, so let's try this, and you can play around with the color. For the font style, I'm gonna say font style H3 because I want it to be a little bit big. Now the trick is here. How can we display a text inside this label? Well, you have two options. The first option is to say here text and then display your text, type your text. For example, you can say this is my app. This is the first method. The second method is that in Python, in the on start method, you can make reference to the label here below this, outside this loop here. You can say self dot root dot IDs, and then access the label. So I'm going to say here self root dot IDs dot about label. So what is this about label? This about label is this label. And then I'm going to store it in a variable called about label, which is going to be equal to self root IDs about label. Finally, I'm going to say about label, and then dot text, and then you can type your text. Here I'm going to say this is my awesome app. And make sure that these two lines are outside the loop, outside this for loop. So here with this line. Finally, let me save everything and let me run my application. I'm going to click here on File and then I'm going to click here on View and then Terminal, and then I'm going to run my application. Now, as you can see, if I go to the About Us page, it's going to display this is my awesome app. So this is how it works, and this is how you can display some text here. And of course, I'd recommend displaying more text here because you want to display information about your app here in the About Us page. So now what if you want to display other locations other than these locations? Well, you have two options. The first option is to play around with these numbers. These numbers, the B box, is going to provide a bunch of locations according to the coordinates. So you need to play around with these numbers. The second method is to change the URL. So here you have the one that they have used is this one, is the series within a rectangle zone. I have used this one, but you can use another one. For example, you can use the series in circle. You can use this one. This is going to return a few cities or location that exist in a specific coordinates. So you can use this as well. You can use any other cities, any other URL. So there are many things, but the one that I found useful and the one that I found that would explain how to create an application very well is this one. So there are many things that you can use in this. Instead of just using one URL, you can use many different things, and the process is the same. All you need to do is just to change the URL and access the data and then display the data here. So now let me show you how you can get a weather for a specific city. So if you click on, first of all, you need to click on pricing because I need to let you know that not all features here are for free. Some features require subscribing for one of these plans. So for the free plan here, you cannot get, for example, the daily forecast of 16 days. If you want to get the daily forecast for 16 days for a specific city, you need to get this plan. So for the sake of testing here, let's try this one, daily forecast 7 days. I'm going to show you how you can use this. And by the way, the free plan is great in case you want to test this API. But if you want to publish your application where real people are going to use your application, then you need to get one of these plans according to your needs. But for testing, I'd recommend using the free plan. So let's try this one. I'm going to try this one. Let me copy this URL and let me show you how you can here, instead of using this one, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove this URL. I'm going to remove not the complete URL. I'm going to remove this part. I'm going to remove this part. And then I'm going to paste this URL. And then I'm going to remove this part as well. So here we need to add here single quote and then plus. And here I'm going to remove this exclude, and I'm going to remove this part. I'm going to remove this part. And then here we need to say for the lawn here, we need to pass a number. So for example, I'm going to pass 73 minus 73.9. I think this is of New York City. For the latitude, I'm going to pass 43.9 for the latitude. And finally the API. Make sure that your API is correct. Now let me copy this URL and head over to the browser and paste it. Now, if you paste this in the browser, it's going to return the data, the weather of New York City, because I have passed the coordinates of New York City. So as you can see, this is the data. For example, let's access the hourly here. Let's access the hourly. So instead of using here, uh, instead of accessing the list, I'm going to access the hourly, and then for the hourly we have the pressure, we have the humidity. Everything is basically going to be the same. For the hourly, is everything is going to be the same. The humidity, if you want to access the humidity, if you want to access the temperature, if you want to access pretty much everything. And here we don't have the main, so we just need to remove the main. So here in the application, we just need to remove the main. So it's just going to be humidity without main. For the temperature, we need to do the same. It's just temperature without the main, because here as you can see, humidity, it's just a free, it's a free key. There is no main. There is no main before it. For the temperature, here, let me show you that. I think yes, the temperature is this one, temperature. So for also for the pressure, we don't have the key. We don't have the main key. For the weather, we need to say weather, and then we need to access the description. So it's going to be the same. Now let me save everything and let me run my application and show you what is going to happen if you run your application. Here it says name, there is no name, so we need to remove the name. So we have here an error, we need to remove the name because there is no name, because the name is the city that we already have here. So here for the name we can say New York City. For example, I'm going to say here New York. And here, by the way, we need to remove this. We don't need the max. I'm going to remove this max. And I'm going to here remove this main. We don't have this main. And finally, here item main, just item main. And finally, make sure that we have here maximum temperature. Yes, we don't have it because I removed it. Let me now save and run my application one more time. And now it should work successfully. Let me run now. As you can see now, it's going to return the hourly temperature of New York City. And as you can see, it's going to display the temperature, the humidity, temperature, humidity, temperature, humidity, which looks now awesome. So this is how you can change the city if you want to display a specific weather of a specific city. You need to do that. You need to access this, and you can get the that specific temperature of that city, the hourly temperature. This is the hourly temperature. So there is a lot. There are many ways. There isn't a specific way to create this application. You can create this application as a one city, just for one city, or you can get many cities as I have shown you throughout this course.